something I know we give a thumbs up to. Jordan Peele. First movie, Get Out, international sensation, nominated for Best Picture, won for Best Original Screenplay. Uh, Jordan Peele, the new Hitchcock, some people are saying. And his second film, directed, produced, wrote, Us. I mean, Dave, did it live up to the hype for you?
It did for me. I think we can get to whether it did for everyone else who saw it. But yeah, I thought Us was a. We're going to talk a lot of spoilers about Us, and I think spoilers are quite impactful around discourse with the movie. So I would really avoid them if you haven't seen the movie yet. But if you want our spoiler-free take, we both recommend the movie, even if you're not a horror movie fan. I'm certainly not a horror fan at all. I did not find it like
terrifying,
chilling or anything like that. I watched it. I wasn't covering my eyes the whole time. So recommend it. Go see Us. But we're going to spoil the shit out of this because there's a lot of things to dig into. And I think it's weird because going in, Get Out's this huge success, right? This huge word of mouth success, huge financial success. Only cost $5 million, right? And it was also an unexpected success because Jordan Peele used to be known as the sketch writer and performer with Keegan-Michael Key, Jordan Key and Peele. And most people thought Key was going to be more successful just because seemed like he was the better actor, which he probably is. But Peele comes out of nowhere with this really tight movie that's this incredible social commentary and also kind of reinvents horror for a broader audience. Like there's so much there. And of course, he was rewarded both financially and critically at the Oscars. And then having Us, obviously there's a lot of hype going into this. And well, I think it's kind of foolish to compare Us to Get Out directly because I feel like we only ever compare the second movie to the first movie. We don't compare like director's 10th movie to their second movie, like we're not going to compare Peele's third movie to anything, right?
No. But
it's probably not as good as Us, or as Get Out. Us is probably not as good as Get Out just because I think it's perhaps a little messier. It's a little broader, whereas Get Out was much tighter in both its message and its storytelling. Right. But I still found a ton to chew on with Us and really liked it. But what about you?
No, I mean, I highly recommend Us. I think it's a fantastic film. And what a testament to Jordan Peele, because, we talk about Greta Gerwig. And I don't want people thinking about the trash on Greta Gerwig. I think she's phenomenal, and I can't wait for Little Women. But in Get Out, he was so thoughtful about almost every single choice he made. There's symbolism upon symbolism in that film, and he's even talked about it himself, that he's put like a lot of little Easter eggs in there as like he wants people to go back and rewatch and see things and take more from the film with every watch. So his movies aren't just you go, you enjoy it and you leave, or you don't enjoy it and you leave. It's you go and you leave and you think about it and you try to understand what he's trying to say. And it's a commentary. Whereas, it's not like Lady Bird, which is a commentary in a way, but it's not one that necessarily sticks with you past maybe the first couple days after you see it. It's something that I think a lot of times after watching, it will kind of hit you again. But I didn't find myself thinking about Lady Bird the way I thought about Get Out, or I've been talking about Us with people, because especially with Us, he, like you said, he's approaching these large themes and these large ideas that aren't necessarily easy to get across. Yeah, get across on film, and he does it really, really well. And I think he didn't do it perfectly, and there's some times when it falls short, and we'll probably talk about that. But I think it's so awesome that he's taken horror, this genre that people just trashed, and he's made it into an art form again, or at least it feels that way. And I know that there's been artful horror movies I just haven't seen because I'm not going to see them. But this is one that, Jordan Peele's got the season ticket or season pass at this point for me. Why don't we start with the performances? Because I think it's going to be hard to really talk about the themes before we get into the performances and moments that stood out. Lupita, I mean, phenomenal, right?
Yeah, somehow her first starring role, which I would not have guessed if I didn't read that. Um, Obviously, she's been on it for a while, ever since 12 Years a Slave. Off that, she gets, cast in
Black
Star Wars
Panther.
doing mocap, right? Black Panther, of course. Like,
Yep.
she's and voice work in Jungle Book too. Like, she's a stud. She's great. But this
Uh-huh.
is definitely like she's never been able to asked to do this much. Obviously it's a dual role, like a lot of other actors. But yeah, I think it's just transformative, but also she really carries a lot of the scenes when she's like kind of actiony. So I think it's a quite the multi-layered performance and awesome to see.
Yeah, and her and Elizabeth Moss, my thought leaving was just like, how did Jordan Peele find two of the most interesting looking people that can do so much with their face? I mean,
Mm.
uh, you know, each of them are playing their tethered person and their above ground person, um, and I think they both are able to like get across so much like emotion, like so much creepiness with just like their looks and that like blank stare that Red has throughout the whole thing, and the way that like Lupita delivers the lines and like looks around is just so creepy. She does so much with uh without really speaking. Is so impressive. Do you think that this is Oscar worthy?
Uh,
It's hard to say so early.
yeah, it's not the kind of performance that usually gets nominated, so I'll probably say no.
Hmm.
Um, but it's really good. That's for sure.
Definitely, definitely really good. Winston Duke, hilarious, just
Yeah,
absolutely hilarious.
the thing, like Winston Duke, obviously, I didn't know about him until he was M'Baku and Black Panther, of
Mhm.
course. And this
Yeah,
was obviously much more different. I was actually happy to see that. Like, he's just being comic relief. He's just being funny. The audience avatar at times too. And it's like, oh wow, M'Baku, bringing it. Let's go. But yeah, I thought, especially in the early going, like he's really like pushing the plot forward, but also he really drives a lot of like the much needed levity that Peele injects script,
yeah,
especially in the later acts. So yeah, I thought he was also very well cast. And then the kids, I mean, I obviously didn't know about these kids either, but I thought they were both great. Again, playing dual roles, being asked to do a lot. But yeah, I thought they were awesome. And Elizabeth Moss, as you said, definitely an inspired choice for sure.
yeah. Shahadi Wright Joseph, gonna be Nala in Lion King, a young Nala in Lion King.
Right.
She's a child star to watch. I think she's gonna be taking off next couple of years after this performance. But the funny thing is, I think Evan Alex, who played Jason, was even better than her. Just crazy that they both were so good, and played their creepy counterparts so well too. Must have been an interesting role to get as a kid to have to play these two people.
Hmm.
Anyways, um, scenes that stood out to you, or moments that stood out to you from the movie. I mean, the first act is a little slow. I felt like.
Yeah, it is. The thing is, I think ultimately, like my appreciation of the film is the trailer does not actually show you that much. Like the main twist, probably I think the best scene in the movie once you realize, oh wait, there's more doubles, there's more tethers, there's white
Right.
people tethers. What?
That's when it takes off.
Like that like blows everyone's mind. Like I don't know about you, but I had a theater that usually I try and go at like non-prime time to see movies just because I hate people that talk. But in this movie, obviously because I'm kind of a coward with horror, I'm like, you know what, people are going to talk. I don't mind that much. It'll probably keep my nerves down. So I went. It was like 5 o'clock on a Friday, and it was or 4:40, but like five when it started. And it was basically sold out, and people were roaring at the funny parts, and like people like yelped. I think it was an oh shit, like audible oh shits and stuff. But when the white tethers came, Elizabeth Moss, Tim Heidecker, and the twins, like people lost it. I thought that
Yeah.
scene. I mean, from there, I think the movie just gets like super electric, just because you don't really know what's coming. Um,
Right.
but you mentioned the beginning's a little slow. I think the beginning against a lot of the trailer, but like the it's a lot of table setting for things you learn later, and I think the value of a rewatch would really benefit, especially in the beginning. You're just going to see things.
Hmm.
That first scene where you see all of, like the retro references, like the right stuff, and the Hands
Yep.
Across America, all those very tactically placed pieces of ephemera. Right, obviously that's great. But even like the scene where the "I got five on it" scene, which is in the trailer, which becomes
Yeah.
a motif, which you don't expect. So I think honestly, like I like a ton of scenes, but I think ultimately the white people Tether's coming, and then I also really like the opening title card when it zooms out on the rabbits and it's a black rabbit, a bunch of white rabbits, and then you see more black rabbits. But I thought that
Yeah.
was really effective.
Yeah, it was really effective, and reading a little bit about why Jordan Peele picked the rabbits because he feels like they have such blank stares, and the way he like zoomed so far in on their eyes at first,
Right.
I really got that sense like, oh, this is like kind of creepy to see a rabbit up close like this. Um, no, I agree. The first attack's a little slow, but it's effective because it really does, like you said, all the table setting, and you get a lot of payoff in this movie. And I think that's something Jordan Peele does really well as a director is he gives you payoff for a lot of things. Like thinking about like the end of Get Out, like you pretty much get payoff on everybody, especially like when Brie Larson's character, or not Brie Larson, Allison Bree's, Brian
Allison Williams.
Allison Wilson. Jesus Christ, long day.
Definitely
Um,
not Brie Larson.
no, definitely not Brie Larson. But when she's killed at the end, that's or you think she's killed. It seems like maybe.
Right.
Uh, I think that you get a lot of payoff at that point. Um, Yeah, when the family comes at first, it's such a creepy scene, and you kind of expect it because you saw it in the trailers, right? But like Winston Duke's, tethered person Abraham is like this big like brute, and you're like, what's going on here? Like he's just gonna kill him right here, but he's like, Winston Duke's like dragging himself down to the water. You're like, where's all this going? And then it really takes off, like you said, when he kills Gabe on the boat, and then it cuts over to the Elizabeth Moss family, and those guys waste no time. Like Red and Abraham and Umbre and Pluto are like toying with Lupita's family, and then the other one's just like boom, dead,
Dead.
2 seconds.
Yep.
Yeah, but that scene is so phenomenal. Not only like the good vibrations thing and the Ophelia, whatever, like switching to fuck the
Yeah.
police, which is just
So good.
hysterical, but just like how creepy those twins were, like the whole thing was just
Yeah.
unbelievable. Um, and then they obviously show up and Lupita gets pulled in. It's just next level at that point.
Yeah. In the moment, I was like, "Ah, man, they skip Easy's verse. If I the police come back in and it's MC Ren," and I'm like, "Ah, dang.
Yeah.
Oh well." But yeah, the Ophelia, nice little stab at Amazon Alexa. That was cool.
Yep.
You see, I think as we get to the third act with us, we learn more about the existence of the tethers and their underground infrastructure and how they came to be and all
Hmm.
that, and the big twist at the end with Adelaide. That's where like I think it's I don't want to call it divisive, but that's where people are, I guess, branching off in terms of the discussion about the film, because there's people that are just harping down like the logistics of the world, right? And there are people that are like, don't overthink it. It's about the metaphors, which is where I'm at. Um, and I guess I'm just kind of off put by like this convo. It's like, why are you focusing on this? This is a movie that has a awesome message that can be interpreted so many different ways, and um, you're just asking me about like the geographical trackers and the tethers and whether they actually move around when someone moves above ground. Like, why? Who cares? You can
Hmm.
pick holes in a lot of horror movies, a lot of good horror movies. That's not the point. Like, else is actually
Right.
bringing more to the table. That's way more interesting than that.
Hmm.
So that part of
Yeah.
the discourse is kind of annoying me right now.
It's actually funny, and I'm going to jump to a part, but at the end, Jason's giving Red slash Adelaide that look in the car as they're driving away, and there's a lot of people speculating what that means. Like, does he recognize that that's not actually his mom? That his mom is one of the tethered, like come to the top. Is he one of the tethered that's come to the top? And there's a theory on Reddit that
Mm.
uh, Jason is one of the year before had like burned himself, and the other or the tethered had switched himself or something like that. And this person's like, no, but the daughter is this way because she got more of the dad's DNA, and because Red was the tethered, Jason got more of her DNA, and that's why they're closer. And I was like, we're really getting into like the weeds of like genetic makeup with these people and like speculating on that's why one kid is more. I was like, I can't get in the weeds this much, man. I got to pull back at some point and just enjoy it. and it's obviously just like, it's a part of the horror movie trope, some of this stuff, but um I think overall the metaphors are the most interesting thing to talk about. And I think there's obvious classism, the people who are above, the people who are
Yep.
below, rising up, so to speak. I think that one's pretty obvious. Duality of humanity is where I think I start to get really interested into this, because there's so much symbolism of it throughout, like that duality. The scissors are an obvious one, how they're like basically like two parts make a whole. Um, the rabbit, how the rabbits, how there's so many, like they procreate and there's so many of them, and blah
Mm-hmm.
blah. Michael Jackson was one that I found to be a really interesting symbol in this. That you have Peel talked about this, how Michael Jackson back in the 80s was like this person who was so much fun, and it's just like alive, but he was also made Thriller, and the Thriller music video actually really scared him as a kid. But also think about Michael Jackson as that, the person who in the 80s was this black symbol, and then uh had all the skin surgeries and things like that,
Mm-hmm.
and he kind of became two people in a sense as a public figure.
Right.
And even now, I mean, that's even more poignant with the documentaries coming out. What did you think about that, like, metaphor of the duality of humanity throughout the movie?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think another thing is it Peel spells it out early. Uh, the little kid's like, "It's us," and then when they're
Yeah.
talking to Reg, he's like, "Who are you?" "We're
America.
Americans,"
Yeah.
right? So right there, they're giving you a few of them. Um,
Mhm.
what I mean, I think the red jumpsuits looking like prison outfits definitely stands up, and I was really just thinking about like class and I guess how race factors into that. And again, like you're bringing in what you expect of Peel after seeing Get Out with you, so you're kind of already thinking in terms of like these societal commentary of some sort. But it's not really so much about race, or if it is, it's much more top level, like about
Mhm.
society as a whole. Whereas Get Out was much more focused on like uh, race relations, especially with like uh, wealthy liberals, right? But us, I started thinking about um, I really started thinking about the American thing, but I mean, obviously they lead you there. But you know, it, it's funny because like I was trying to think like what's like the intended uh, metaphor, like what's Peele's real message, right? And I think for some people it's an issue. I don't know if there is one. I think it's a little messy in that regard, where you can take it in so many different directions and plausibly explain the meaning. And I think that's
Mhm.
ultimately where the genius is, that there's so many
Yeah.
metaphorical explanations. Um, I saw some people throw in religion. That didn't really come up uh, to me when I was watching it. But I think capitalism,
Mhm.
uh, classism, as you said, haves and have-nots, that sort of thing. Something that actually jumped in my mind real quick when we were watching the movie is, remember when Adelaide goes back into uh, Elizabeth Moss's house and the twins' body is gone, it's
Mhm.
off the table? I was like, oh wait, are they getting framed for white people murder? Was this like some plan to frame the black family? And then no, the twin was just alive. That's all. So that was
Yeah.
totally not happening. But that immediately started going through my head. Totally wrong.
um, one thing or another interesting theme that I think came out of this is like nature versus nurture, so to speak. How they talk about the tether are these clones that the government made, and they couldn't replicate the souls, and they noticed that they were kind of these like bum clones, so to speak. So they just abandoned them underground, but they still somehow continue to like procreate and basically replicate the lives
Those
they're having.
rabbits.
Right. Uh, and I think it's really interesting to think about the idea of like nature versus nurture, because Adelaide and Red are perfect examples of that. Like the environment that you grow up in influences the way that you see the world, the way that you interact. And you even see a little bit of that with like Jason and with his sister, and they're opposites, whereas uh, Umbre, who is the daughter's opposite. I forgot the daughter's
Right.
name, but she's smiling all the time. She's happy, whereas the daughter is kind of like a grumpy teenager in a sense,
Nose
and
in her
just kind
phone.
of like
Yep.
exactly. Or how Winston Duke's Gabe is such a goofy guy, but like his tethered is so serious
Right.
and like this just big brooding brute. really, really, I think well done. I think that metaphor comes across really well. Also, something I didn't mention before, but the camera work in this is a lot better than Get Out. I feel like, and there's so many scenes that like stood out, but the one I keep thinking about a lot is when Red has Adelaide against the glass in their first interaction, is like pressing her face into that glass tabletop, and you just see it cracking slowly, and then
Yeah.
you hear Jason and Pluto, and she's like, "One of yours," or that one's yours, and she's just like, "Ah," and it's like it's up. I like started giggling so much that I thought it was such a beautiful shot, and then to have it like end like that was so
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought also the mirror scenes look really cool.
Yeah,
Obviously, there's a lot going on when you're filming that kind of that shot. So that was cool. Yeah, I think I guess similar to you, I think I kind of landed on for the meaning. It's just like the duality of each person. There's two sides of everyone. I think that's sort of what I started thinking of. And I think once you get to the end and you realize like the final twist, I think that's sort of where I settling on. But the fact that you can apply to society in so many different ways is so cool. And of
mhm,
course, along the way, it looks amazing, as you just said.
yep.
And it's both funny and scary at times. So quite the movie, man. I'm really happy that it is so successful. In fact, it's the highest grossing original film live action since Avatar. The highest grossing movie ever. So
An opening
quite
weekend, that's
this
crazy.
70 over $70 million first weekend, third highest horror opening period. Uh, quite the success. Only cost 20 million bucks. So
Peele's on a real heater. He's got the you know CBS All Access Twilight Zone coming out. Two more questions. Did you see the final twist coming of Red Adelaide?
right before, like with like 30 seconds to go, I started to piece together in my mind. But I wasn't thinking about that way. I just kind of I thought they were some kind of like shadows, as they were saying, some kind of like phantom person. I didn't think that they got twisted, literally got switched like that. And then I
Right.
started thinking, going back, and it's like, wait, we thought that Adelaide had repressed Santa Cruz because it was traumatic, because that's what happened when she saw the person. No, it's the other way
Mhm.
around. Like it's really kind of mind blowing how like it worked like that. Then you really think of, oh wait, so the real Adelaide, she's the only one who actually talks. That's because she actually was above the surface for some time, and it would make sense that she was the leader. And is she the good guy
Mhm.
actually? Are there any good guys? Are there any bad guys? Like
Yep.
it really just makes you totally rethink and refresh everything you just watched and everything you thought you were believing. So really cool twist, but no, I didn't really see it coming.
Yeah. I kind of sniffed it out right after she started talking, and I noticed that the other ones couldn't. I was like, "Huh, that's strange. That she's the only one that can talk." And but that honestly, it wasn't a big deal to me because I still thought the movie was really enjoyable. I thought the choreography too. They highlighted a lot that she was a dancer, and it's such a powerful moment in that
Mm.
scene where Red's trying to kill Adelaide, vice versa. I thought was really well done. So, any last thoughts before we wrap up for today?
Don't get bogged down in the world building. Just think about the meaning, because that's what's going to last with people. But yeah, definitely evangelize for the film. 'Cause I think
Yeah,
this is, I mean, not that it needs the help, obviously, judging by the box office we just mentioned, but yeah, it's definitely the best movie I've seen so far in 2019. Obviously, still really only a handful of good stuff's come out so far, but yeah, I was definitely pleased for sure.
absolutely. Yeah, go see it and comment your favorite theories or what you think us means on our videos. We really want to have a discussion around this. We really love the film.